you guys know that I've been dabbling in some running. I've been running. And kind of more recently, I just kind of dove all in and started running every day. Months and months ago, I literally, we don't like the word can't, but I literally could not run a mile. You're going to have to really be careful and really be cautious. You want to walk away from the day knowing that you can do it again. And also you got to keep in mind what is in your week. Like what are some other goals that you have? And he was like, I don't want your 5 reps or your 3 reps or your 1 rep to look like a train wreck. I want it to look really nice, to look really sharp, to look crisp. And that's exactly what runners will do when they do things called repeats. They'll do 400-meter repeats. But how long am I talking about running for? Well, that's kind of up to you, because you're in your own body and you need to make your own decisions. But I would say day 1, let's see if you can run for 4 or 5 minutes.
How long have you been doing a bit of running? Like, it hasn't just been this year. How long has it been?
Yeah, I've been messing with it, I think maybe for 2 years or so.
Now I do run in my ultras, but I know you guys like ultras, so what else should people be considering when it comes to footwear?
Somebody did mention, they're like, why don't you just run with a giant dildo in your mouth?
Yeah. Every 2 steps is an inhale, the next 2 steps, exhale. So it's like, right?
Let's just talk real quick about the knees, because I know your knees were banged up.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, I'm glad it was just his nose. I thought it because it had like the wraparound feature. So I'm thinking.
Felt really warm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like on one spot, for some reason, like it's like pretty long, and then it goes like this on one spot.
Oh, wow.
So like, I don't know what that means.
Bigger.
Yeah. Kind of like a mushroom almost.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Like a mushroom tip.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's happened to just about everybody in the gym.
It's a rite of passage.
They will.
And when it happens, just smile and take it.
He's like, this is jujitsu.
Really? You're just slapping my face with your dong. What
Here's
the
your first lesson of jujitsu.
No thanks.
Power Project family, this episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot shoes. Now, we've been wearing Vivos for over a year now, and we've been loving these shoes because unlike your normal lifting shoes, Converse, etc., they have a wide toe box because we have some wide fat feet. But for everybody, you need to be able to spread your feet within your shoes, and then you want them compacted. So they have a wide toe box. They're also thin, and they're also extremely flexible. Unlike most shoes that people wear, they don't move, okay? You're putting your foot into a cast, which isn't good for the strength of your feet. And as athletes and lifters, our force is generated from the ground. So we need shoes that we can express our strength through, and that's why we love Vivo. They also look f***ing amazing. They don't look like shit, Andrew.
No, they don't. Not at all. These are my absolute favorite shoes. And, we could talk and brag about them, but you really just got to get your awesome feet into these amazing shoes. You guys got to head over to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. When you guys go there, you'll see a backstory on why we love these shoes so much. But when you're ready to purchase, make sure you guys use promo code PowerProject20 to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
So I've been in this tech thread with our boy, Russell the muscle, Russell buddy. Mm-hmm. And I've been in a text thread with him and my bro, and we just trying to keep everybody like in line with the diet. My brother wants to stay on the diet well. I want to stay on my diet well, and our boy Russell is on a mission. He's losing weight, and he's had an all-time low in body weight of 449 recently, and he has been registering like 450. And we watch the scale go up, we watch the scale go down. Like it goes up, it goes down. He does frequent weigh-ins. And a lot of people get scared of the scale and they're not sure kind of how to handle that. And it's not always easy to figure it out. But I just told him, I said, let's just weigh you, like, let's have you weigh yourself really frequently to the point where you just don't fucking care anymore. It's just a number. It's just some math. Mm-hmm. There's a certain math. You have a certain body weight, and that's that. And then also there's the math of controlling your diet, controlling your calories, and watching the scale, gradually go down over time. But it does pop up here and there, right? Yeah. Depending on what we ate, depending on how often we poop, and depending on how hydrated you are or dehydrated you are. Somebody that is even just above, I would say, 220 pounds can see shifts in body weight of 10 to 12 pounds pretty frequently just from being dehydrated. You go out on a run, and if you weren't thinking about it and you didn't get the right hydration, you're going to be depleted quite a bit, especially if you ran in the sun. So anyway, it's been great to kind of work with Russell and work through some of this process and to watch him ultimately manage it. And the whole thing is, look, you don't weigh as much as you used to. Like you're down, I think he's down like 55 pounds.
Shit. Let's go.
So it's like you're down 55 pounds. Like the focus isn't like, oh, fuck, I weigh 450 again today. The focus is I don't weigh 460, right? And for anybody, I think you do want to allow a little bit of play with the scale. There should be a couple pounds here and there. And I would say don't get too excited when you see the scale go down. But on the same token, don't get too disappointed if you see the scale go up a little bit. It's just some math. It's just some figuring. Now, if it starts to go up and up and up and up, now we're heading in the wrong direction. Something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I bring this up is because we have to go over everything often. So we keep looking at the scale. And if it's having a net where it's not really going down the way that we want it to, we're like, well, what gives? Is there like more stress? Is there less sleep? We're looking at everything. We're looking at the diet. So recently what he's landed on is he has a moderate amount of carbohydrates, maybe 100, maybe 150 grams a day, has a little bit of rice, has some fruit, primarily eats meat. He's doing a little bit of cardiovascular training, which is mainly just walking for him at the moment. Sometimes he's on his bike. He's getting some lifting in. But like once I see the scale's not moving, we're like, what's in there? Something hanging on that we can get rid of? What can we add exercise wise? And then today, I was like, you know what? You sent me that thing with your sleep, and there's just not quite enough sleep in there. We got to can we get you a little bit more sleep? And he's like, yeah, I can do a little bit more sleep. So once we get a little more sleep in, we're going to see another drop.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be another problem. And then we're going to get stuck again. And then we're going to fix it again. You keep back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
What's really cool about everything you said on the first topic in terms of watching, not paying too much attention to the scale. It's crazy the type of things that can have an effect on different people. For example, my girl's getting ready for a show. So whey protein, whenever she uses whey protein, she bloats. Mm-hmm. Okay. And even though it's just she's holding a little bit of extra water, or it's just not digesting well, she'll bloat up. So she has to cut that out because the weight needs to get lower. Same thing with electrolytes. She'll hold a little bit extra water because of electrolytes. But a fun thing, and this was the thing you mentioned about like Russell getting more sleep. You notice this in a lot of people who are getting ready for shows because the weight fluctuations are so exact, and you can really see the type of things that affect somebody's having slow weigh-ins. So she was stuck at like a weight of 141 for 3 weeks, right? And then Paul Ravelli is actually working with her. We love Paul, but he's like, do have 2 refeed days, right? Just stop stress and have 2 refeed days.
You're always like, what?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I shouldn't do that. Should I? Wait, what?
I should eat more? What?
Were these like refeed, or was it like anything goes, or was it like
no? Hey, they were calculated refeeds.
Eat a lot of fucking rice. It was more like that.
I think it was a surplus of 600 to 700 calories, right?
But of whatever.
Of like food that was on like
I see.
Like make it fit these macros,
I
but
see.
Increase your calories by like 600 to 700.
Don't go disgusting and eat a fucking pint of ice cream.
Of course not. Yeah, and it's the typical diet break thing. We've talked about diet breaks. Sometimes when a person's been dieting for too long, have an increase of calories for your next week. But don't go crazy.
Call them calories.
Calories. An increase of calories, but after the first refeed day, boom, new low weigh-in. Second refeed day, boom, another low weigh-in. That's crazy because she's eating more food, but she's also less stressed.
So, yeah,
that's a bitch, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, for some people out there that are really struggling with losing weight, I mean, there's so many different aspects to life that give you the kind of freedom to start to lose body weight. Like your body doesn't really want to just like burn up a ton of fat. I know that some people will say, oh, well, if you're in a 500 calorie deficit, you really want to. But things can get complicated. That usually does work for a while, and then sometimes you see it slow down. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of you do have to kind of keep picking at it often. And I saw a post by Joel Green. It's way too confusing to bring up too much of it on the podcast today, but he talked about what actually happens when you lose body fat, like when you burn body fat, and how the kind of what happens to the cell. But he, unfortunately, it seems like it's really easy to gain that body fat back than it is to, when you lose body fat. An interesting thing, and this is really good for people that are listening to know, those of you that are frustrated with being stuck at a similar body weight, if you stay at this similar body weight and you have a halfway decent diet protocol, you're going to notice over a period of time, and in your training, you're going to get leaner and leaner and leaner. You'll continue to look better at the same body weight, especially the more mature you get. As you get a little older, there's some sort of little warp zone you get pushed into. And I know that some people are listening like, what the fuck is he talking about?
What is this bro science?
But
it's real.
If you weigh 200 and you came down from 220 and you had some extra body fat on you that you didn't really like, and you stay 200, you stay in that zone for a while, and like I said, you're still training, little forearm vein will pop out, bicep vein will pop out. You got to hang in there. So just make sure you don't go the other way. Make sure you don't just say, screw this, and then throw your diet in the garbage.
Do not dreamer bulk that shit. Don't do that. But
what'd you call it?
Dreamer bulk.
Dreamer bulk. Please explain.
Dreamer bulk is like, bro, I'm 180, and by the end of this year, it's kind of like what Tom did. Okay, our boy Tom Thornton, he was like, I want to hit 200 pounds, and he was 160. That's a dreamer bulk, because like at that point, you're just gaining weight to gain weight. It's not like you're even putting on a lot of muscle. It's like now you're just putting on body fat so you can reach a certain weight on the scale. Yeah. And I get it. You want to see 200 pounds on the scale, but you're also gaining a lot of fat to do that.
Yeah, well, what's tough with him is he was already really strong. I didn't even know he was 160, but like he was very strong already. So I can't imagine the extra 40 pounds. I don't know. I could be way off, but I can't imagine it added as much strength as he's probably hoping for anyways.
And our boy Tom's great. I'm not trying to roast the man, but that was the literal definition of a dreamer bulk. It's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. That boy was eating though.
He was putting in work. He had his Monster Mash every single day. I think he was eating like 4,000 calories or some shit like that.
He's like a weirdo though. He eats like a 7 or 8 year old kid. Like, what are you doing, man? He's like putting mustard on stuff that doesn't need mustard.
I think it's just to dive into the bodybuilder side of things, and they do mustard, so I do mustard.
Right. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, Tom?
It's like, yeah, but you're eating pancakes.
I love it. I love people's passion, and I love when someone like suddenly just changes their mind. And they just start doing something, and you're like, what are you doing? Remember Smokey with the hamburgers? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
No.
So Smokey went through all these like phases. He went through like a sandwich phase. He went through a phase where he ate burgers like every 2-3 hours. Yeah. He ate like a burger. It's like the greatest diet ever.
And he was super defensive about his pickles. Like this was at the old location.
I'm like, what is this diet?
Is this with a bun?
Yeah, with the bun. And it was fun. It was like I mean the patty, like I guess some credit is like the patty was gigantic, and then like the bun was like barely even there.
Okay.
But I'll have to find it, but I have published a video back then of him eating the hamburger in the gym as everyone's training. Like he's in there.
It's hour 3. I need to eat my burger.
He's like what does he call it? The anabolic window.
He took it very seriously too.
He did not miss. I mean, who the fuck's gonna miss that?
I know.
That was great.
Amen.
And then here's my dumbass having no idea. I'm like, well, if he's doing it, I'm going to do it too. So I started doing it, but like, whatever, like nothing happened to me. But it's just so funny how like I saw that and I'm like, does that work?
He took Stan's advice like way too to heart. Pick a diet that you can actually follow. So he's like, I'm going to pick this one. It's like, you made that diet up. That's not an actual diet.
The hamburger diet, man. Never heard of it?
And I remember I was at Costco and I was like, well, I think I'm supposed to have chicken instead. So like I took a picture of like these Costco, they're like breaded chicken patties. And I was like, Smokey, I was like, can I have these? And I think I asked him if he has these. And he's like, no, they have too much fat for me, but you should have them. And looking back, I'm like, I don't know if they had too much fat for you. If you're eating fucking...
I would never do this, but you should go ahead.
That too, yeah.
Number one, the patties he was using probably had more fat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could. I mean, who knows, right?
And actually, he probably could have done well on the diet, honestly, if he chose like a leaner burger, right? If he's eating like bison or...
they were probably the 88-12 Costco ground beef,
Piedmontese beef.
Oh, here we go.
Low on fat, high on protein. Don't they have 97.3?
Piedmontese. I've never heard of this meat. You're saying that it's lean?
Yeah, it's because of the breed of cow. I think it's called the Belgian Blue.
Oh my God.
These cows look like bodybuilders.
They're jacked.
And
they
that's
look like
why
Jay Cutler.
They taste like Jay Cutler too. Good.
Oh my God. We need to get some of that Piedmontese. How do we get some of that, Andrew?
Well, that's funny you ask, actually, because if you are interested, you got to go to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWER for 25% off your entire order. That's right. The entire order is going to be 25% off, if my math serves correct. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Back to you, Mark.
Dude, a bavette steak, I think it has 16 grams of fat, 100 grams of protein. And they're so good.
My son goes fucking crazy for the bavettes.
Oh my God.
It is so, it's like one of the best things ever. Like he starts like getting fucking all riled up in his high chair. It's so cool.
Your son's going to be, he's going to be expensive, that kid.
Yes.
Like my kids, they love sushi.
Oh yeah.
And like recently we went to Makuni and I'm like looking at I'm like, man, I guess prices of everything are going up.
Prices are going up, but like when we go to In-N-Out, like we broke the $50 fucking bill. I'm like, what the fuck is? I'm like, he's only 2 or not even 2 yet. I'm like, imagine. I was telling my wife,
how much is he eating?
I'm like, imagine when he's like 10. Like we're gonna have to order like 25 Flying Dutchmen. Because every time, it's so funny, dude, when I order, like, because, you know, lines are always in the drive-thru like ridiculous. So I go inside to order and I'll be like, oh, can I get 11 Flying Dutchmen, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then they have to call it back because it's so many. They're just like 22 meat down. And everyone just goes, whoa, like the whole, like, because they get fired up there in and out. So like they start cheering. They make me feel like a fucking rock star. And, you know, they try to give you like 20 fucking forks and napkins and stuff. And I'm like, just 3. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, it's just us. That's it. Not a fucking whole soccer team.
I feel like a pig when I do that shit because I'll get like 8 Flying Dutchmen and they're all for me. And she'll be like, how many forks do you want? Just 1, please. Just 1 set of forks.
I used to go to this. I used to go to this convenience store that was down the street from my house, and I would get pint of Ben and Jerry's. And every time I would get it, I'd bring it up to the counter, and the girl at the counter was like, she had this big smile on her face. She's like, "Oh, this one's mine." It didn't matter which one I got; they were all her favorite. She was very large, and she was like, "Do you want a spoon?" I'm like, I'm thinking I'm not going to eat this in the car, you know.
But I might.
But she's thinking like, he probably wants to get to this right away. Here's a spoon.
He probably can't wait to get out of here. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Amazing.
That was cool that she was so nice about it. Like, you want a spoon for the car? I know you want to do it. I know you want to eat this when you drive home.
I missed my window. I should have asked her on a date.
Yeah.
She liked fish food, Ben and Jerry's, just like me. I love that one.
I don't know any of the flavors.
Fish food
so I
is
couldn't
not that
tell
great.
you.
I like it.
Have you tried Gimme S'more?
I have not. I don't think I've tried that one yet.
All right, I know you're not doing that, but Gimme S'more is one you must try. Whiskey Biz is the second one you have to try. I guarantee they will blow fish food out of the water. You can get Gimme S'more over at multiple Safeways.
I like Tonight Dough.
Tonight Dough is good.
Really good.
That has Jimmy Kimmel on it, right? Yeah, that one's good.
Half Baked is really good.
Isn't there like a Netflix one, like a Netflix and chill or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do any of them have like Reese's peanut butter cups in them or like anything?
There is one that has.
You make some peanut butter ones, yeah.
Fuck, man.
They make ones that have like a core in the middle, like a core of like dumped in like chocolate or fudge.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
Those are good. The reason you got to try the Whiskey Biz one is because the Whiskey Biz has a top. So like the top of the ice cream is like you have to break it, and then it's like chunky, and then the ice
like a
cream
creme brulee.
Yeah, that's why it's hella good because it's like a white chocolate ganache that you break into, and it's just
a ganache.
Did you guys see the new
fancy.
the fucking Legendary Foods like sweet rolls?
Oh yeah.
I need to text this man because they said they were going to send us some fucking sweet rolls and they haven't sent them yet.
Do they have pictures of them though?
Oh God, are they on sale yet?
I mean they should be.
Okay.
I want an actual picture though. Like they just show it like this.
What's up with Ron Penna? Like solving the world's problems, giving us giving us foods like this that taste delicious. that got some protein in them.
Yeah. I did ask him if he could make like a like the lemon like home run pies. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Those are really good. And see, you probably never had them, but they're terrible, but they're delicious.
A sweet roll.
I'm not a lemon pie, man. But guys, just go to like if you haven't had the legendary Pop Tarts, we just did Piedmontese on legendary. You need to go check it out. We have the description. We don't need to go through the whole code thing, but go to there because like if you want some high protein like snacks that taste good that aren't bad, Legendary's got you handled, yo. Their shit's really good.
They keep getting better too.
Yeah.
They're testing shit out and they keep making stuff better and better and better.
The Tesla of foods.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we're talking about some running today. Sorry about all that bullshit we were talking about. We were just warming up, I guess. But, you guys know that I've been dabbling in some running. I've been running. And kind of more recently, I just kind of dove all in and started running every day. Yeah. Probably have run 28 or something days in a row at this point. Going to run for this whole month. And we're talking about sober October type stuff, piggybacking off of what Joe Rogan has started along with some of his friends. And I think it's awesome to get people to hone in and focus on their nutrition and on their sobriety in some way and just on habits, like let's see what happens to some people if you can gravitate towards a couple of habits. And what I would love to see from people is, we talked a little bit on the last podcast about how sometimes a little bit of strength training can go so far. Like if you strength train like twice a week and you work on particular movements, you'll be shocked at the progress that you can make within those movements. You'll also be shocked with the changes in your body that if you stick to that for 2 years, 3 years, and so on, the progress that you'll make. What I think happens to a lot of people is we try to embrace these new habits because we think that they're in our best interests. We try to throw that into the blender of stuff, the buffet of things that we have to do every single day. And it gets kind of blended up and spit back out because you got so much other stuff to do. And you kind of forget about it. And you're like, that stretching that I was going to do, man, I kind of just took a back seat. It wasn't a big priority. It wasn't really a necessity. Like you weren't painted into a corner where you had to stretch. But sometimes you have such a painful experience where you do have to take care of something. You do need to rehab something. You do need to really work on something. And so sometimes it's easier to get the habit when something like forces you to, like your body is going to kind of, make you do it. But what I would love for people to try to grab a hold of is imagine just sticking with a habit for just a couple days in a row, 2-3 days in a row, and trying just to kind of have the mindset of just taking it one day at a time. So with running, I would love to see people try to run every day. I realize that can cost you something and your ankles could hurt and your knees could hurt and your back could hurt. But the type of running that I'm talking about like jogging, and I'm talking about very, very slow pace. Really just something that somebody would recognize as like, you're no longer walking, something that's just a little bit better than a walk.
Pull up that low and slow, pull it up.
Yep. Yes. Let's check out let's check out the greatest of all time. We've got Kipchoge here, and here's how he starts out a lot of his runs. That guy runs a marathon in under 2 hours.
Jesus Christ.
You see how delicate he is with his body. I would imagine that he's just trying to, I saw some really cool videos. I'll tell you about it in a second. You see how he's probably like going in and thinking about his body and how it's going to feel for the day. There was a video of a pretty prominent runner. He went and tried to run with those guys in Kenya. And I guess they're running, at pretty good altitude. I don't know what the altitude is exactly.
Wow, look at that stride.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a fucking maniac. But a prominent runner went and ran with him. I mean, this guy's not like world class or anything, but he did like a 7K. And so for 3K, the guy was like good. He's hanging with everybody.
Yeah.
5K starts to fall behind. 7K, the guy's running and his head is back, which is like a sign that you're just done. You're dead because you're trying to breathe and he's just like, his head's back and he's like, just got this weird running form. And he really just fell apart because these guys, they do go low and slow and they do take their time, but they keep their pace and they just stay at that pace. And eventually when you're at high altitude, it's just really, really difficult. So anyway, the cool thing about running is that you can make outstanding progress with a little bit, just as I was talking with lifting. You don't have to hammer yourself with this stuff. You don't have to kill yourself with this stuff. This stuff can be, it's crazy. We're watching these videos of Kipchoge running and he's flying, but you don't really even realize it. He actually is kind of known for, and this is always funny, and the same thing is true of Usain Bolt when they break everything down and they try to watch it biomechanically. They're known for not having great mechanics, which is always just, it's a joke because you're like, well, maybe he knows something we don't know. He's running faster than everybody else, you know? Like, hey, let's dissect Eric Spoto's bench press form. You know, it's like, well, he benched 722 raw. Like, sounds like he knows. Sounds like he kind of knows what he's doing.
Everybody knows how they can fix an elite athlete. Everybody knows how they can fix the elite athlete.
I know. It's
very well said.
It's wild though, when, you know, and I think a lot of it is like conjecture towards the way his foot lands and this stuff and that stuff. But like, he's probably doing something so instinctive to him. And also, it's at the end of a marathon that he just ran in under 2 hours. So it's like, does that look different than, you know, this stride that we're trying, you know, this like magical. It's interesting because like if you actually look at his stride when he's going, it's beautiful. He's in this, there's something called the pose method. If you look up some running stuff, he definitely is kind of prescribing to some of that. He's got a really good kick. His leg is traveling back behind his body really well, and his foot is heading towards his butt, you know, pretty well, and everything like that. It looks like, I don't know, it looks amazing. But a little bit of running will go a long way, and you'll be shocked and you'll be surprised at the type of progress you can make. If you start running and you start running 50 feet and 100 feet and 200 feet and 200 yards and so forth, and you improve little by little, by the end of 30 days or so, you're probably going to be able to run a distance that you didn't even think was possible for you at all. At the end of 60 days, at the end of 90 days, you're going to be really surprised at how far you can run. And Nsima and I, we ran, I think we ran about 5 miles. I think the whole distance of the whole thing we did today was around 7.
Yeah.
And fuck, man, I couldn't, I just, months and months ago, I literally, you know, we don't like the word can't, but I literally could not run a mile, like without being like, it was in my best interest to stop, because it's like, this is not going to be good. Maybe I could have, if someone's like, there's $50 million on the line, like maybe I could have, but it felt like I couldn't. I was so out of breath. My breathing was so dysregulated, and my legs were burning, and my lungs were burning. My knees and feet were hurting. It just felt like, no, this is not a good idea. And now here we are months later, and we're out on a casual jog running miles.
Yeah. And the first run that I came out with you to the Arboretum, because I was like, okay, I want to start doing this too. I had to stop 4 times, and that was like, you were in it. So like at that point, you kind of just like left me in the dust for a little bit, because I had to stop a few times and I had a few pains here and there. But after that, I took that concept of like, okay, stay low and slow and go within your capacity, like progress this shit slowly. So I would go on small runs at a pace that my body found comfortable, where I wasn't feeling any pain, wasn't feeling any discomfort, and it was slow. But progressing that over time very slowly. Today we ran about 5 miles before I was like, okay, I need to stop. You could have kept going since you've been doing this for a minute. You stopped because of me, but I was like, damn, I just ran 50 minutes. I haven't done that in a long time. And that's really cool. But we've been progressing this very slowly, and like, we're not paying attention to the time on the watch, right?
Yeah, we weren't checking in every couple minutes, looking at time and looking at the miles and looking at our pace. We didn't look at any of that stuff.
I think, Andrew, you have a really good thing to mention about this, but what happens is people, like, you know, you'll turn on your Apple Watch or whatever, and you'll start tracking your run, and you'll be like, ooh, I want to try to increase my pace, or I want to try to increase this. And then after the run, you're Your whole body's beat up because you just pushed yourself too hard. The low and slow thing that Kipchoge was doing, he was running like an old person. If we pull that clip up again, and I'm sorry for all you guys who are on audio, you just got to come to the YouTube side and check this out. He is moving like an old man. He's literally hunched over, just letting his body do his thing. Maybe for some of you who are just starting to try to run every day, maybe that's your pace. Maybe that's how you do it. And you walk a little bit, and then you go to that again.
Yeah, literally like an old man. He's literally bent forward a bit.
He looks like he's like an old guy that's...
And those other runs that we saw, he did not look like an old man at all.
No.
And he actually is a little older, by the way. Like, he's not super young. I forget his age, but I want to say he's like, maybe like, for running, he's a little older. He's like 38 or something like that. Or 37 or something like that. I forget.
But yeah, that's how you can build this shit. You can really start from there, painless, slow, low and slow, and just progress it each day.
Yeah, and also you got to kind of keep in mind, if you're going to like model yourself after some other people that you're trying to watch, if you're already in pretty decent shape and you're trying to watch people, you got to keep in mind, a lot of those runners that you see, especially the guys that really can move in a marathon. I mean, it's normal for those guys to be 140 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you need to have a limiting belief system, and it doesn't mean that you can't ever do better. Like, of course you can do better, but your body most likely is not going to move like a 140-pound guy if you're 270 pounds.
According to Google, it says he's 37 years old.
There you go. Yeah, which again, I just don't think is young for the sport, because like you still need... I mean, he could probably still kick everyone's ass until he's like 42 or something, but I do think that there'll probably be a decrease in power. Although powerlifting, you can do pretty well in powerlifting for a long time, but to have like power through endurance like that is a little bit more of a younger guy's thing.
Real quick though, because a lot of people are gonna follow suit with your running, right? Do run walks. I think that's
100%.
Do run walks, because that can count as a run. Everyone in the audience is already walking each day. So now when you're walking, just do a few minutes, 2, 3, 4 minutes.
Let's just change the word too for a second. It's going to be a walk jog.
Walk jog.
More walking than jogging, and jogging is different than running. Take a big step back. Today when we restarted, I'm like, go as slow as you can. Like go I'm serious. Like, go really slow. Just kind of bounce back and forth, move around like an old man, and you'll be surprised. Like, that's the challenge. Like, go out and see if you can jog. Let's get rid of the word run, because we're not really running. Let's get rid of the word. If you told somebody you were running and you sent them a video, they'd be like, that ain't running. You're just hopping back and forth. It's a shuffle. You're just doing a little bit of, I think that's called the Kipchoge shuffle. He's like known for that. Just do a little shuffling. And, maybe you do look at the watch. Maybe you do look at a timer and you say, I want to see if I can jog for 30 seconds. Jog for 30, walk for a minute, jog for 30. And you're like, oh, that's not so bad. I haven't jogged in a really long time. Let me see if I could jog for a minute and then take a minute rest. Oh, that doesn't feel too bad. Well, it turns out I can jog fine. I feel pretty good. Then maybe you jog a little bit longer, but you're going to have to really be careful and really be cautious. You want to walk away from the day knowing that you can do it again. And also you got to keep in mind what is in your week. Like what are some other goals that you have? If you have goals to continue to do better in a squat and a deadlift and these kinds of things, well, then when you're training and you start to feel a little bit of negative feedback and you start to feel things that don't feel right, you're going to have to back off sooner than somebody that's probably going to make a stronger commitment to running.
Yeah, in regards to like improving pretty quickly, when Dr. Belisa Branich was here, when we were going through some breath work and stuff, she's like, well, what's a breathwork goal or whatever that you want to have? And I was like, since I haven't ran like in a long time, it'd be cool if I could just run a sub 10-minute mile. I was like, it's really like, that's just like a very easy thing for me to be able to achieve, but I have no idea if I can even get close. Ran with Mark, and then so I ran by myself, and I was wearing my watch, and I was just going. I was like, oh, I'll wait till I get to the end of this side of because I ran at Elk Grove Park. And so I was like, I'm going to get to that side of the park and then I'll probably take a little breather. And I'm going and my watch starts going crazy. And I look down and it's like, oh, I already ran a mile. And it was at like 8 minutes exactly. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, that was really fast. Like, I did not understand how fast I was running. And then so not only did I break that 10-minute thing, that goal, but like I actually was on pace to run 2 miles under 10 minutes each. I ended up stopping at like 1.75 according to my watch, which should be accurate. But I was just shocked at like, yeah, I did improve after only like a couple of times going out. And then the biggest thing, which, I think that first time I ran with Mark, we did the Arboretum. I came out of that kind of not banged up, but just like my hip was really sore. My knee was kind of bugging. And
same. He killed me.
Yeah, it's just because
why are you killing us, dude?
Sorry.
Whatever technique, whatever you want to call it.
I can't like outlift you guys anymore, so I can't show you anything on that front.
You'll always bench more.
I definitely can't out jujitsu anybody. So
yeah,
this is my defense.
But so anyway, so when we got back from that, because my knee was kind of bugging, my hip was bugging because I couldn't turn that foot over at all towards the end of that run.
Yeah.
I was talking to Graham about that, and he was just like, yeah, when the form breaks, that's when you stop. He's like, how come when it comes to running, we just want to power through it? He's like, imagine that's like a really bad squat. He's like, you do one and it's like kind of iffy. And then the next one, your form breaks, like nobody would be like, hey, that's a really good idea to keep going. Everyone would be like, no, either take weight off or like go do something else. And so that's something I took to heart because I was just like, yeah, you don't think about that when it comes to running. You're just like, well, we're still going, so I'm going to just, keep plowing through. But I think that's very important for people to know and understand that, like, yeah, if the form breaks, like that's probably when you've gone a little bit too much at that point.
In lifting, there's like Louis Simmons was a big fan of doing like 10 sets of 2 and 8 sets of 2 for the dynamic effort work. We had Matt Wenning recently, so you guys should check out that episode. He had a lot of great things to say when it came to strength training. But one of the reasons why you do those 10 sets of 2 reps and those 8 sets of 2 reps and things like that is so that you ingrain proper technique and proper form over and over and over again. Running is something that, yes, you should have good technique and good form as you do each repetition. And I agree with what Graham said, and that is a really interesting take. The way that I learned how to lift through Louis Simmons, through Dave Tate, through Charles Poliquin, and anybody else I held in high regard, they would say, look, man, if you go to do an exercise, let's say that we're going to do a bench press, and you're supposed to pause the weight on your chest, and you're supposed to perform 3 repetitions. Well, regardless of whether we added weight or if we kept the same weight and we're trying to do repeated effort, you should be able to make your last rep of your last set look like your first rep of your first set, or at least close. It should be kind of close, even a 5x5, and even Jim Wendler did such a good job in 531, and that's probably why his book was so popular. If you never checked that out, I think it's the greatest place to start for a lot of people is with 531. He did such a good job of telling people, like, I don't care about the percentage. I don't care about what I recommend in this book. I want you to be able to perform the exercise the right way. And he kept hammering that over and over again. And he was like, I don't want your 5 reps or your 3 reps or your 1 rep to look like a train wreck. I want it to look really nice, to look really sharp, to look crisp. And that's exactly what runners will do when they do things called repeats. They'll do 400-meter repeats, and you're supposed to repeat. You run X amount of time. Let's just say it took you 90 seconds to do a 400. Then you're supposed to get another 90 seconds. But you're not supposed to get 90 seconds and then get 120 seconds. If you got 120 seconds on set number 2, you either need a larger rest interval or you need to just kind of discontinue for the day because something went wrong. Maybe you miscalculated or something like that. But the same thing happens with weights. When you go and lift a weight and you start doing a weight all weird, you start squirming for the weight, you're teaching your body to lift that way. And you don't want to teach your body to lift that way. You want to teach your body to lift and perform the reps with excellence as best as you can.
What you're talking about reminded me of a post that I just sent over to Andrew. And it was this is going to divert us a little bit, but we're going to come right back because I saw this. And the Flexible, he's this really cool dude on Instagram, Jeffrey Wolf. He has a lot of great information. He posted something from Squat University, and Aaron Horsching, Squat University, posted. He said, "Lifter A." Andrew actually has it here. So this was Jeffrey's response. "My brain, when I read on Instagram that you should take weight off the bar until your squat is symmetrical, and that hip shift will kill you." So Andrew, go to the end. Squat University. Lifter A, squats 650 pounds in training with a hip shift and a slight knee cave. Lifter B, squats 500 pounds in training with great looking technique. Both are impressive, but Lifter B is more impressive. Do you agree or disagree? I'm curious, like, because you've been in this for this, so do you agree with that or disagree? Jeffrey obviously thought this was a stupid take, but what do you think?
I mean, impressive, I guess you'd have to define like what we're talking about. If we're talking about the squat, the 650 squat is better. Right? I mean, it's more weight. I would also kind of just say, like, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And so sometimes if you're just kind of going for it and you're blindly going for it, you're not paying attention to where you're weak. Yeah. Those things can keep haunting you, but a 650 pound squat is very impressive. So I would have to go with Lifter A.
Lifter A. So yeah, you know what? I made a comment on that post because I was like, I mean, so if these are both lifters, and let's say this is 90% of their 1RM, which is, I'm assuming Aaron was like, this is the same intensity of both lifters.
I mean, kind of like saying, Usain Bolt, he keeps winning gold medals in the 100, but his foot is externally rotated quite a bit. Like, is he as impressive as the third? And it's like, let's give that guy who got the bronze his props. Like, he really did great because his feet were straight.
The bronze technique was better. You know what? Yeah. Because I was actually, in my mind, I was just like, I kind of am more impressed by the lifter that, like, has a better, like, when I look at deadlifters, if they have really beautiful technique, like Yuri Belkin, I was obsessed with the way he deadlifted.
Like a crazy amount of weight, though.
He's also lifting a crazy amount of weight, but it's beautiful. But I also saw
this hip shift and knee cave. Like, we don't know enough.
Yeah.
we know what we know what we know, but we don't know enough. We don't know that that's wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what Jeffrey was going on too, because he's like, how much hip shift? How much knee cave? And we were going back and forth. I'm like, okay, you have a very good point. Like, how much hip shift, how much knee cave? I think what Aaron was trying to get at for the general population of lifters is, if your technique isn't good, stop increasing weight on the bar. I think that was the intention of the post. But like you did and like Jeffrey did, if you dig into it, you're like, hey, more weight's more impressive.
Yeah, well, what if, lifter A, what if he only moved the weight a couple inches and his form was really bad? Then we have a problem. It's like, okay, well, lifter B, right executed better, right?
Fun. Yeah. How much is lifter A doing? And what's lifter? Yeah.
Yeah, so my thing is, okay, well, I'm just going to lean right into it. Let's just say lifter A is 35 years old, but lifter B is 18.
Oh.
Which one's more impressive now?
Lifter A.
Okay, but then let's switch it up. Like, let's say they're in a room where it's a warm up room, and they're about to go hit the platform because we're now at a powerlifting meet. It's like, well, who gives a fuck about the knee? If he can lift more, we're gonna go with more. But again, kind of going back to the age thing. Like, if I'm a fucking powerlifting coach, like, who do I want to draft more? Like, I definitely want to get the guy that has better form, because he's probably going to be able to come back next year and do it again, and maybe even more.
I think that was Aaron's thing. The last thing you mentioned, I think that's the intention of what Aaron was trying to get at. Keep good form, keep good integrity, and you'll be able to do this longer. And if you're struggling with weight, like kind of what you were talking about in terms of the repeats of movement, like, don't increase if, like, it doesn't look the same as it did at lighter weight, right? There's so much nuance to it, but I just thought that was funny because it.
But then what if lifter B is wearing a suit?
Well, yeah, if he's wearing a suit, I don't know.
Is he natty?
Yeah, what if he's not natty?
Well, lifter A is definitely not natty.
No, yeah, but what if he had, knee wraps instead of sleeves like that?
Well, we got to put them both. We got to say they both have knee wraps. We got to say they both have sleeves. It's like lifter A and B got to be in the same situation.
When I was lifting, I think people got it twisted. They thought I didn't give a fuck about form, and they thought I just kind of cared about, like, kind of more end result type stuff.
Yeah.
Which I did, but it's like, man, we can sit here and nitpick the form all day.
Yeah.
And we can make sure that you never get in a lift, Like if I'm sitting there nitpicking every little move that you're making when you're deadlifting, I can try to keep you at 500 pounds because I can be like, I think this was a little off. I think that was a little, it's like, it's getting heavy, it's getting heavy at a certain point. And at some point, you kind of just have to go for it. So I used to see so many people, they were so concerned with their mobility, and they were so concerned with like these textbook lifts, and they would come to me and they'd be like, I need help with my deadlift. And I would say nearly every time they just would overthink it. It's like, you just need to fucking pick it up. I don't understand pick it up a lot of times. And then eventually from experience, you're going to start to learn like, oh, I should pick it up this way instead of that way. Ronnie Coleman said one of the most profound things, and I think a lot of people wrongfully think that Ronnie Coleman's not super intelligent, but I think he's a fucking genius. The biggest, most jacked guy we're ever going to see, and strongest, like the best combination of both things. When they asked him why he doesn't lock out 200-pound dumbbells, he's like, because it doesn't feel right. He just keeps it in here. Why does he keep it in there? Is he trying to cheat? Is it because he can't press them all the way? It's Ronnie Coleman. Of course he can press them all the way. He's like, it hurts my elbows. He recognized that's not good for my joints. I ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
So you have to play within yourself, and you have to work things out within yourself to kind of feel what's right for you. You can't just have someone, like if you just keep watching videos and you keep hearing about the back being flat and your hips got to be low and your chest got to be up, you're going to be in this weird, funky position to try to deadlift. And then eventually you're going to kind of recognize, oh, my butt keeps going up in the deadlift because I'm in this weird squat position that's not realistic to actually deadlift from. So my hips actually need to be a little higher. My chest actually needs to be pointed towards the ground, maybe just a pinch more, in accordance to your body type and how you feel. It's going to be different for everybody. Everyone's got different arm lengths, different leg lengths, different back lengths.
I get what you're saying. Like some of this stuff, you kind of need to do it. But the thing is, you need to do it well, because it reminds me of, number one, what you were saying about Ed Cohn. Be careful, yeah. But remember when Stu McGill, and he was the first guy that we heard mention this phrase, because I think he said Ed Cohn also said it, but the way you do something will make your mind imprint an engram of how that movement looks. Now, for the definition of an engram, because I had to pull this up, an engram is a unit of cognitive information imprinted in a physical substance. So that means the pattern of movement that you do continuously is the way that your body's going to be like, this is the way that I move. This is the way that I strike the ground when I run. This is the way that I deadlift. This is the way that I squat.
And that doesn't have to be permanent. You can change some of that.
You can. But a thing that I think should be something that high-level lifters think about, and even like if you're a beginner lifter, think about this, is the stronger you get and the deeper you go down that rabbit hole of strength, if you have implanted engrams that are dangerous long-term, it's more of a risk the heavier the weight gets. So let's say that you're squatting. Let's say that it's 700 pounds you've gotten to, but every time you squat, you have quite a bit of knee cave and actually quite a bit of hip shift. And it's something that happens a lot. And right now you feel comfortable, but what happens when you get to 750? What happens when you get to 800? Like, it's going to be that much harder to rid yourself of that.
So you can't express your true strength either, and you might get seriously injured.
Exactly. I mean, when I came into the super training gym initially, right, you guys had to remove certain engrams I had with the deadlifting. There were certain adjustments that you guys made in my deadlift where for a few months, I deadlifted less than when I came into the gym.
And that's how you get stronger and make those improvements, is by having repeats with weights that you can actually maintain the form with.
And exactly, because that's exactly what happened. I came in with a 620 max. Then I could barely deadlift 550 because of the form changes we made. I slowly progressed that form, and within 4 or 5 months, I deadlifted 722 because of the new engrams that have been implanted. So I think that kind of just cements the idea that when you're doing something, we all have different bodies, we all have different morphology. Some people have longer femurs, some people have X, Y, and Z. So you're going to have to move in a different way than other lifters. But at the end of the day, if there are certain concepts, with lifting along with running that you can just try to build from the beginning. You're going to be that much better when you start to advance because your body's going to know what to do, what's right. Like, for example, I'm going to shut the fuck up in a second.
No, I'm listening.
But when I started jujitsu, I didn't watch white belts roll. I would go to tournaments and I just literally wouldn't watch. I couldn't let myself watch. I told myself this, and I didn't watch white belts roll. I only watched black belts roll, and I only watched videos of people I wanted to roll like, because I realized that when I see someone do something bad, I record it. And I will start doing things in that way. So I made sure do not watch unskilled people do this thing, because I knew that I would do that shit. So I made sure that my eyes watched good people, and then I would try to copy those good people.
You know, I couldn't believe when Stu McGill mentioned that on the show, because like my mind is pretty simple, and I always thought that it was as if like a muscle like passed through on a conveyor belt and it got like a stamp.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're good. Like, you're that strong. Whoosh, send it on down the line. Hamstring's good enough. You can deadlift this weight. And when he said that, it like blew my mind, because I was like, that's kind of the way I've always envisioned it. Because I felt like intuitively, I felt like sometimes I could feel that within a workout. It's hard to be intuitive about this stuff. And there is no way around getting hurt. Like you're going to get hurt.
Yes.
You're gonna go out and run. You're gonna listen to us on the low and slow. You're gonna feel good, and you're not gonna go low and slow. You're gonna take off a little bit, and you're gonna like something's gonna hurt. There's many degrees of it. And so, if you're being intuitive and you're kind of thinking within yourself, and you're not thinking about what everyone else does, then you can kind of be honest with yourself and say, that's going to hurt me too much. I think I'm doing, and Nsima did it today. He was like, man, there's something in my back. Like, I need to walk, you know? And I encouraged him a bunch of times. Like, I think you can still go. And he was like, sure. It got to the point where he's like, no, I literally need to stop. And it's like,
I was like, dog, I got to stop.
I'm not going to pressure that. You know, I encouraged. And I was like, yeah, he's an adult. He's good. Like he said, he's good. I'm not going to yell at him about it.
No means no, Mark.
And he's like, no, a little bit more.
Yeah, Jason Kalipa'd the whole situation, right?
Yeah, 5 minutes more and the warm-up's over.
But I will say, the times where you were pushing me before I actually was like, okay, I need to stop, that was like, I should have kept pushing. Those were times that I could have kept pushing. But when I decided to stop, it's when I felt that that lower back thing that I felt on the very first run. I was like, you don't want to run through this. You run through this, you will feel this for the next few days. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start walking now.
Yeah, don't run through pain. And at first, don't even bother to try to run through fatigue, because fatigue is going to get you hurt too. So just when you feel fatigued, I would say shut it down and maybe just brush up against it here and there. And then maybe over time, you're like, okay, that's just a little fatigue. I think I'm cool. And just push that out a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. The cool thing is, if you're trying to run, especially if you're just trying to run far and not necessarily run fast, you will run faster by running really fucking slow. Running really fucking slow, really slow. You will be able to run fast by running really, really slow. So just to give you an example, I think that you can run probably as fast as some people would walk. Like as fast as like a picked up casual walk for somebody. So maybe 4 miles an hour. I think you can kind of run around that pace. And I would say that if you do that continuously for a little while, you'll be able to run like 10 miles an hour without any problem. Once you start getting faster than that, I mean, it's just a matter of like power output, and there's other factors in there. But I would say that just about anybody would be able to handle something like that. So you don't need to worry a ton about your speed. I know that some people have come at some of this stuff from the other direction, where they want to implement speed stuff and then they want to build out their aerobic capacity later. But I think building your aerobic capacity first is the way to go. And the reason why I think that is because the intensity is so low. These workouts are pretty easy to recover from. And I'm talking about running every day. But how long am I talking about running for? Well, that's kind of up to you, because you're in your own body and you need to make your own decisions. But I would say day one, let's see if you can run for 4 or 5 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 4 or 5 minutes in a row.
Yeah.
It could be 5 minutes during a 10-minute walk. It could be 3 minutes. Like, you could pick the number, but I'm just trying to give you a reference point. If you could run If you can run a total of 5 minutes within a 10 or 20 minute walk, that would be a wonderful start. So that would be 5 1-minute runs or 10 30-second jogs. I'm sorry, let's use the word jog. Keep it low and keep it slow.
Yeah. And one thing with this too is, when we're thinking about progressing progressing as far as your body composition, let's say your weight loss, a lot of people don't only focus on the scale. They'll take measurements and see those little changes. They'll look at visual changes and see, oh, wow, I see this extra vein even though I'm at the same weight. I see this, that, and the other. Running's the same thing. Think about the time of your run as the scale. That's what the time of your run is. That's what your pace is. If you're always paying attention to your pace and that's your only metric of my improvement, then there's nothing else that's happening is showing a benefit. That's why I don't pay attention to only my pace. I also pay attention to, wow, my upper body is way more relaxed today than my last run. I'm not up here the whole time. Wow, the way I'm striking the ground is more consistent. Wow, my breathing's more consistent than it was in my last run. Those are PRs. Some people may not look at that as PRs, but for somebody that's getting into this and new, you want as many metrics of improvement as possible so that you don't run yourself into injury.
Yeah, a comment that I got on my Instagram was about people just don't like running, just period, because it can be boring and it just kind of, you lose your mind sometimes because you're just we're still going. Mm-hmm. But the walk, jog a little faster kind of rounds that we were doing the other day are freaking incredible. I can't wait to get out and do those again.
Oh yeah, what Andrew and I were doing the other day was a little bit more like interval stuff.
Yeah, it was fun.
And you can make this, this shit can get to be really fun, but to start, you got to kind of for most people, they're going to want to start pretty modest. You're already in good shape. You're not heavy, but
gotcha.
if you're a heavier person, please just low and slow. I don't want to limit you on what you can do, and I don't want to tell you what you can and can't do. However, it's just not a great idea to go out and haul ass right away when you're new and when you're a heavier guy. If you're a heavier guy and you've been running, then don't listen to me. You can go and do what you want. But I think for most people, it's going to just take a little bit of time to work into some of that. But that shit's a lot of fun. It could be really challenging. You could say anytime there's a hill, I'm just going to kind of go for it. And hills are a fantastic way, especially for the bigger guys. You have to keep in mind with every foot placement that you have, it's higher and higher and higher. And it's not, you're not jamming your foot down on that flat surface. And so when you jam your foot down on the flat surface, there's just a lot more impact forces. When you're going up a hill, you don't have that same battle. So even for the bigger guys can actually run hills. But again, be cautious and be cautious of just your cardiovascular system and stuff. You haven't, you know what I mean? You probably haven't, some people probably haven't really pushed that. So please be very, very cautious in your efforts. Just if you haven't done any, start doing a little.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we partnered with an amazing brand, Bubs Naturals. We actually have some of the products on the table. Their MCT oil powder, their collagen protein, and this they're apple cider vinegar gummies. Okay. One thing I want to let you guys know real quick is that the Bubs products, number one, they mix super well. So I've had different MCT oils and I've talked to people who've used MCT oil and mixed into their coffee and it doesn't mix well. Well, their MCT oil is amazing on coffee in the morning just on its own, but their collagen protein, and collagen is great for joint health, hair, skin, nails, all that stuff, that also mixes just so well into coffee and everything. That's one of the crazy things. But secondly, these freaking apple cider vinegar gummies, I don't ever supplement apple cider vinegar, but they put them in gummies, which is great. 2 per serving. We have literally eaten one of these full things. Andrew and I have split this. And Mark has to be so careful. We give him 2 and we take it away because it tastes so good, but it's actually really good for you. So Andrew, Tell them how to get it.
Yes, guys, seriously, have just the recommended dosage. Just have 2 of those gummies. Don't have 2 full bottles the way we do. Head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. And what's really cool about Bubs Naturals is they actually donate 10% of all their profits to various charities, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. Again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code PowerProject to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
And let's also remember, because there's a lot of new people in the audience. How long have you been doing a bit of running? Like, it hasn't just been this year. How long has it been?
Yeah, I've been messing with it. I think maybe for 2 years or so.
2 years,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think you go back around 2 years. I've been kind of playing with it, walking, jogging, running, jogging, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then in March is when I did a half marathon. But before March of this year, there's probably like 2 or 3 months of like actual like running, like jogging and running, but
increased frequency, right? Like doing it more often per week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now I got to the point where I can handle more and more and more frequency, but it's a lot of fun. It's just another skill set. And so again, what I'd like people to kind of think about is imagine that you now have a skill set where at any moment you can switch into going to get a good workout in, and it could literally be 15 minutes. If you go on an 8-minute run, take your time, get your shoes on and get out the door or drive your car to wherever you got to go. If you run for 4 minutes, you run out for 4 minutes and back for 4 minutes, or you do 10 minutes, 5 and 5, that can be a really good workout. And it can always be a really good workout because your capacity to be able to do it faster is going to increase and increase and increase. And so if you are like a runner and you wanted to do a 7-minute, you can go out and in 14 minutes, you can run 2 miles. You'll have had a good workout in just a handful of minutes. So
and the fatigue won't hit you that hard.
Yeah.
Like if at the point that you're used to that, you could go and do a cool workout later on and not be too fatigued from that. It takes a while to build to that, but realize you can get to that point.
Just gives you some different options. You don't have to always go to the gym. You don't have to always do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Sick. Zach Talander locked in for next week.
We're going to have Zach.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around there.
Cool.
But I was going to ask, because there's a lot of people that are jumping into running now, footwear. We've talked, we love Vivo Barefoot shoes, but we're not really running in them right now.
I do some of my
really?
runs in those trail runners.
So the 1-2 times that I did in my Vivos, like I felt it. I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But it was just like a weird, when we got stuck in the rain, weird scenarios where I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
So right now I do run in my Ultras, but I know you guys like Ultras. So what else should people be considering when it comes to the footwear?
I think you should always be cautious of the ground that you're running on. So pay attention. Like if Nsima was first time running the trail that we ran today, it wasn't really a trail. It was just like a thing.
It was a loop.
It was a loop. There you go. And so he asked kind of like what to wear. I was like, wear like more like a regular shoe. I think
I wanted to see like, do you think I could wear my sandals on this one? And you're like, wear your shoes because you don't. I didn't know what type of trail.
And
it was.
you totally could have. You could have like, and I think you would have been fine today. But it was just like, I kind of had in my head. I was like, I want to go a little bit further, so I didn't want him to go further and have weird footwear.
And he didn't tell me in advance, so I was like, wait, he wants me to bring my shoes. And in the back of my head, I'm like, something's fishy here. I legit knew. I was like,
and something's going on.
I roll up and you're in your fucking Nikes.
Oh no!
Yeah, he was in his springing shoes. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna go through it today.
It was in his enhanced shoes.
I got some Nike Alpha Flies. So there are super shoes, and I asked. It's really nice to be able to communicate with some high level people. So I asked Ryan Hall. He has the United States record for I think half marathon and the marathon time.
Shit.
And he's going the other direction. He's like stopped. His career in running is over, and he's lifting.
Oh, wow.
And so he and I are passing each other, going different directions. But I asked him like what shoe to get, and he's like, get the Nike Alpha Fly or whatever the hell those things are called. So Anyway, they're in a category called a super shoe, and it's a whole entire thing. You can look it up on YouTube. There's a bunch of different ones to choose from, but they have a carbon fiber like foot plate, and when you go to bend the shoe, it will snap back into place. It literally kind of does some of the jumping for you. You notice that it takes a lot of the pressure off the calves, and I think it's great for a bigger guy. Like if you're a heavier guy and you're like, man, I don't know. This will take a lot of the cushion off. I just don't advise that you wear them all the time, because I think it'd be nice to build up the ankles and to build up the feet. And so I have run in my Vibrams before, although the Vibrams I have, they don't have quite enough sole to them to where I'm comfortable running all the different surfaces that I run. So I don't wear them that often, but I just ordered another pair that Ryan Soper showed us. Yeah, look at those things. Those look like
when I put those on
space age.
When I put those on that one day, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing shit, because it's like they boost you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but guys,
they're not giving them away.
This is the thing to be careful with, guys. I mean, at least this is what I think you should be careful with. As we've been getting into like this barefoot stuff, barefoot sandals, barefoot shoes, strengthening our feet, I noticed like, okay, if my feet were weak and let's say I didn't have good habits as far as the way I was walking already, these would be exciting, but they'd also be a massive crutch to the feet getting stronger if you're not currently working on that. So the cool thing is that a lot of people in the audience are working on getting the feet stronger, are wearing barefoot shoes, barefoot sandals. And that's a good thing to have. But like you said, do not use it too often. Yeah. At least that would be my suggestion.
And I did my 5K in the sandals. You know, I ran a little bit that same area, Sacramento Land Park area. I ran some of that for the half marathon I did a while back, and I was like, I'm just going to wear my sandals. I've been training in them a lot. But I got to be honest, when I'm wearing the sandals and I'm getting my training in, the way that I'm moving around at night, you know, getting up from dinner and like I'm moving around very gingerly.
Yeah.
I certainly don't look like someone that's like out running all these miles. I'm shuffling around almost worse than when I was powerlifting, but it's just like, I'm like, okay, well, this is probably going to take a little bit. And one of the recovery methods I've been utilizing a lot, and you don't necessarily have to have a cold plunge for this, but it's super convenient that I do have one. I put my lower leg in the cold plunge multiple times a day, just up to the calves. Today I went in full body and stuff before we ran because I just wanted something that felt really good. And that's amazing to have access to that. But even if you could just fill something up with some ice and some water and just step your legs into like a tub that you have outside your house, that would be really, really smart. And just to kind of move around in there, I look at my phone while I'm in there and I just kind of move around, and I do so for 2-3 minutes, and it takes all that shit out of there. And then when I'm walking around the house, I'm walking around totally normal. It like totally cures the situation for a few minutes. So I would highly advise some of that, but
massively lowers inflammation. Like that's what's going on. So that's why it feels really good.
And just back on the shoes a little bit, I like the Ultras probably the best in terms of being the most versatile. Like those are the ones that I know for sure my foot's going to be encased in a shoe and it's going to be very protected. The bottom of it is thick enough to where if there's weird shit on the path that I'm on, because I don't want to be annoyed. I don't want to be annoyed that my foot hurts or that something's rubbing my foot or whatever. So the Ultras are nice because it's a 0 drop shoe. All of their shoes are 0 drop, but I really like the Escalantes the best because some of the ones have they kind of have a lot of padding underneath them, but they also make a super shoe as well. They make a carbon fiber foot plate shoe, which is nice. I do like that one a lot as well. And you're going to still get a lot of training of your ankle. Your toes will be able to move around quite a bit in these. So that's my favorite. That's my favorite shoe.
Yeah. I look at it the same way. Like I found like the super shoe you gave me, the Ultra super shoe that you gave me for my birthday. That one, when I used it that one day, when I started to get tired, I started to heel strike. I'm like, that doesn't hurt because the shoes has so much padding on the heel that you can do that. But I haven't used that one since.
I will probably nice looking shoes too.
They do.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good, bro. We were texting back and forth today, all of us, and we kind of look at these shoes as tools. Like it's an arrow in the quiver, as we saw in the YouTube comment. So Ultra Escalantes are great because they're zero drop. They have a wide toe box, but they're not as low profile as the Vivo Trail Runners. I did take a run in the Vivo Trail Runners yesterday for 2 miles, and I felt good. And then if you want to take it a step further, I would put the Shama sandals and then the Vibrams in kind of that really barefoot category. And just understand, like, what's going to happen with a lot of everyone that starts running, and happened with me, is that your feet are going to hurt. So on certain days, if you're like, ooh, my feet hurt because I just ran in my trail runners from Vivo. And if you could pull those trail runners from Vivo, Andrew, if you could pull those up, that'd be great.
Yeah, those are super comfortable, and they have a really nice bottom on them.
Yeah. It's a bottom that, like, it's barefoot and it's flat, but you don't feel like every little pebble.
There's enough support down there to, where you're not getting... Like I said, it could just be annoying. I mean, like, look, running's difficult enough, right? And
there we go.
I think a lot of the Vivo shoes are absolutely incredible, especially when it comes to lifting. But I think this style of shoe is a little bit better for running.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
No, you're right. That's what this one was made for. It's literally made for going out on trails. I use it in the gym too, but it's made for trail running. You can see it from the bottom.
I wear these for the gym too. They're super nice.
Yeah, but all of us are going through this foot journey. And like on the days that my feet feel like, oof, shit, my ankles are feeling it, I'm gonna wear my Ultras, or I'm gonna wear a more padded shoe to walk around, right? And then when it's feel better, then I'll go run in my Shamas, or I'll go run in my Vivos. So these shoes are tools, but the good thing is that all of them have a wide toe box. All of them are zero drop. All of them are good for your feet. They're not like all the shoes that we used to wear.
Right. Yeah, they're all great options. We would mainly like to see you caution on the side of like using something that is maybe more padded, like rather than like messing your feet up.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to try to run every day. Like we don't want our feet messed up. The Shama shoes that I've been wearing, the Warrior ones, they have a nice enough cushion for me on the bottom to where some of the trails that I've been on before, where I've been in like Vibrams, and the Vibram soles are pretty thin. I had no negative feedback from wearing the Shama sandals, which I was shocked. And you were the one you mentioned, like, you got to run in these, and I was like, I think you're crazy. I don't know about that. And also the owner was telling me to give it a shot, and so I was like, you know what, I need to go out there and give it a go, and it fucking worked great. And that's probably the sandal that or shoe or whatever you want to call it that I wear the most for most of my runs right now.
Yeah, I've found that those sandals are as comfortable as any of my shoes.
It's like glued to your foot.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah. And then I was trying to look at the Ultras that I have. I think it's the Torin, but it's like an older version of it. And it's like walking on a cloud, which is like an amazing thing. But it's something I have to get used to because I have been wearing nothing but Vivos and Shamas. So like when the first time we ran in those, like it was hard for me to even do anything because it was like I said, it was like I was running in air. It was hard. So it was a hard adjustment for me to go the opposite way.
We're going to get more people on the show talking about running, and we're going to get more people to give you guys more input, especially those of you that give a fuck, that care. But for now, I would also say, check out Nick Bear's podcast. He did one, I think he calls it the 5 pillars. I have it in my phone somewhere. 5 pillars of like endurance or something. And he had a coach on there where him and the coach went back and forth with some really great content. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, see, like
that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. That's a beautiful run.
I watch him run, and I watch other good runners run because I'm like, what I noticed is like you see his upper body moving. That's actually one thing that a lot of people will notice when they start to run is like my upper body on my first few runs, I notice like, ooh, I'm up in my traps. I need to fucking bring my arms down, let my arms swivel. And it took a few runs for that to be a thing. But you'll notice that. And for a few runs, you're going to have to keep a mental note. Fuck, bring the shoulders down, relax the traps, stop being so uptight. And that'll improve over time too.
The guy that he had on the show is Jeff Cunningham, and I believe it was Nick's coach that helped coach him to, under a 3-hour marathon. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's not easy to get that upper body rotation. I think we just take running for granted. We just don't realize it's probably similar to a lot of lifting things. We just like bench press. Yeah, I know how to do that. Mm-hmm. You just assume that you know how to do the movements, and there's actually like a kettlebell overhead press. Like, can you just grab a kettlebell and overhead press it? Sure. Like, that's a great place to start, just to kind of mess with it. But if you want to be proficient at it, you're better off really trying to learn it.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing too, you talked a lot about how like you've been messing around with your breathing during the runs, how you kind of use your nose as a governor. I think that's something to mention to people, because we talk about breathing so much, but how do you think people should handle breathing when it comes to their runs?
I think that nasal breathing is fantastic, and working on breathing in and out of the nose is a great thing to work on. I would say that for probably a lot of our fans, the best place to start with that would be on a walk, and to maybe practice that on a jog walk. You might want to, because you need oxygen to be able to calm yourself back down. But if you're somebody that wants to push this a little bit, somebody that wants to test it, the more that you kind of lean into nasal breathing, the more that you're going to mitigate how stressful the exercise feels to you. If you can just breathe in and out of your nose through it, it means it ain't no thing to you. It means it's like pretty easy. So it's a difficult thing to work your way towards, but again, a little goes a long way, and you'll be surprised at the amount of progress you can make. A good idea might be, if you can run for a minute straight, maybe you try 30 seconds in and out of the nose, and then switch to in the nose, out the mouth, in the nose, out the mouth, that kind of thing. But yeah, I found nasal breathing to be really beneficial. What it also will do is it will most likely, unless you become proficient at breathing in and out of the nose, it will most likely keep your heart rate at a modest enough pace to where you're in that zone 2 cardio, which is the aerobic capacity that you want to build out. You actually, again, you don't really want to move fast. You might have some workouts where you might want to push it a little bit here and there, but like I would just say maybe 1 out of every 3 workouts, you're going to try to push to go a little faster, just because it's super boring to stay the same speed all the time. And if you only go slow, that's kind of all you'll ever know. So you're going to have to speed it up here and there. But for most of your workouts, if you can keep it in that nasal breathing zone, or if you can keep it in the zone 2 cardio zone, again, check out this podcast by Nick Bear. Look up some of the stuff on the Maffetone method. We've talked about it here on the podcast before. We've had Zach Bitter talk about it. We've had a bunch of people come on here, and they mention it over and over again. And for someone like Nsima, who's younger, his heart rate can afford to be a little higher. For me, it's got to be a little bit lower for me to build out that aerobic capacity. Maybe you can bring it up, Andrew. Maybe you can find what the Maffetone heart rate is. I forget what the formula is. But if you really want to get into this, and you really want this to be like something that you build upon, best thing to do is to get a heart rate monitor, get a watch, pay attention to it. If that's too technical and you're like, I don't fucking care, I don't want to look at my watch, I don't want to look at my phone, I don't want to be tied up in an app, well then stick to the nasal breathing, or be able to kind of do the old school, have a conversation and be able to talk. And if you get yourself to a point where you can't talk, then just start to walk. Can't talk, start to walk. So you really want to be able to regulate that breathing, and you'll feel your breathing. You're like, fuck, man, my breathing really got dysregulated. I'm really out of breath. I'm wheezing now.
Yeah.
And that just means you went, it's okay. It's good. It's good to go a little too hard here and there, but you went a little too hard. Now you got to try to figure out a way to relax from it. And what I like about that is a mental challenge. It's a mental challenge. And when I did it with the mouth tape on the other day.
The hostage tape.
Yeah, that hostage tape. Holy shit, man. That was because like it's different, you know what I mean? It's like I don't have access to my mouth at the moment unless I fucking take this thing off,
I'll show you access.
Somebody did mention, they're like, why don't you just run with a giant dildo in your mouth? And I was like, well, I've never thought of that before, but that's a great idea.
I will take your post or your comment into consideration. Thank you.
Have it gag me the whole time.
Okay. Well, something that helped. I got this from Belisa's book, Breathing for Warriors, because she has a section in there on running. And I also think Chris Hinshaw mentioned the breathing cadence when running. I think he did. But yeah. But Belisa mentioned, and in the book, it's like every 2 steps is an inhale. The next 2 steps, exhale. So it's like, right? Now the initial run the first run that I did, I tried to do that, and it actually helped. But I was thinking a lot about my breathing. Like I was like, ooh, wow, okay. But after doing that for a few runs, when I put music on, usually music at different beats fucked up my breathing initially.
Start running real fast.
Exactly. But now the body is used to that cadence when running. It's used to those like 2 inhale, 2 exhale. So now the breathing's totally natural, and I'm not wasting as much energy thinking about my breathing because my breathing goes along with the cadence of my steps. And today, for example, when we busted it up the hill, when I would increase speed uphill, my breathing would follow that cadence. Still into, exhale, 2, but even when sped up. So if you can, like, let's say you're going low and slow and you're just like, and you're doing it through the mouth or whatever, just like try to have a cadence with your breathing where it's a consistent inhale and a consistent exhale on like every 2 steps.
And if you know that you have a hill coming up, there's something else you can do, which is pretty cool. So those of you that have experienced some of the Wim Hof stuff, you might have thought to yourself, there's just no way that I can hold my breath for even something like a minute, or there's no way I can hold my breath for 90 seconds. But then you do the Wim Hof stuff and you're like, how did I do that? I think when we had one of the guys here that showed us some of the breathing technique, he had us hold. Yeah, Lovato. He had us hold our breath for like 2 minutes or something like that, right?
Yep.
And I was doing pretty well with some of that. I was like, fuck, I don't know if I've ever held my breath that long before. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, during the first round when he said you're going to do it for 30 seconds, I was like, fuck, I'm out. Like, I can't do this. Like, this is going to be lame. And I did it. And then, got all the way up to 2 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is cool.
It's pretty insane. But if you utilize some of that same logic that they utilize in some of the Wim Hof breathing, and you apply it when you're running, I mean, you want to be cautious. Like, you don't want to fuck around too much when you're running, okay? Because you can hurt yourself. But if you prepare yourself for whatever breathing you're about to go into, and you do that a little early, so let's say you have a hill coming up. Well, if you practice for maybe about 30 seconds breathing at the rate that you're about to breathe at, you'll smoke right through that fucking hill like it's nothing. You'll be able to breathe easier. You'll be able to recover easier from it. And you may even want to breathe afterwards intentionally a little higher and a little louder than what's even needed. So that way you stay ahead of it the whole time. You got your body adjusted to it. Your body knows what's about to come. It knows what you're about to do. You go through that period. Your breath was ahead of it the whole time. You breathed well while you were actually doing the exercise. And then as soon as the exercise is done, you're still breathing kind of hard for maybe another 15 or 30 seconds. And then you start to go back to some of that nasal breathing.
This picking up running for everybody in the audience is going to be one of the greatest ways that everyone can start training their breathing. Because a lot of people take really shallow breaths up here, right? And when you start running, if you're breathing still up here, you're going to notice there's a bit of difficulty. But now you can try to practice breathing into your diaphragm like we talked about with Belisa and other people on the podcast. You can practice that on your runs. And I know we're throwing a lot at you right now, but doing that on the jogs and the runs and the walks, trying to focus on not having these shallow breaths up here and transferring to diaphragmatic breathing, that will, once you're able to do that and it's a subconscious thing, it's not something that you have to think about, a lot of that stuff gets a lot easier. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you're only lifting, yeah, you're going to be breathing in the gym, but there's not many opportunities to really focus on your breath. But if you pick up the habit of doing some running or doing jump roping, any cardiovascular thing, that's where you can really practice breathing with a cadence and breathing into the diaphragm and having to have it controlled when you're going at a longer distance.
Yeah, the Maffetone whatever it's called.
Maffetone method?
Is it with the M at the end?
Is it N or M?
We got to have him on the podcast. He'd be great. I need to try to reach out to him.
So it's 180 minus your age is like if you're like already training 4 times a week for up to 2 years, according to this, that's what your MAF
180 minus 40 would be 140-ish for me, or what, 135 because I'm 45.
Is he saying that should be your max heart rate?
That gets you into like the zone. I think there's a little bit of a range to it.
Okay. So
but I think you can go 10 beats up, 10 beats down.
Okay.
Yeah, like, and it says like if you are like a high level athlete, then you can add 5 to it. So
add 10 plus 5, so add 15, or only add 5?
Add 5. So subtract your age from 180 and then add 5 to that.
So 155 for me.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what your pace should be at, or that's where your heart rate should be at?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Remember we checked today, we were like at 160, but that was like we just went up a hill and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah. I do wonder though with this. So that's a very interesting thing. Now, when people are heavier, you know, if you're heavier, you're moving around more mass. When you're doing things, you might have a slightly higher heart rate. So does this factor in? Like when you think about the ideal runner is usually of lower weight and lower amounts of muscle. But for a lot of people in the audience that do have higher amounts of muscle, I wonder if there's another angle there.
Yeah, no, it has it here. So like, again, the first one that I read was if you've been training consistently for at least four times weekly for up to 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other ones are like if you're recovering from a major illness, heart disease, any operational or hospital stay, in rehab, or are on regular medication, or in stage 3 chronic overtraining burnout. Damn, that's crazy. You subtract 10. So I guess that's not as much as I thought it was going to say. But so yeah, it would be subtract your age from 180 and then subtract an additional 10 from that.
Okay. So that's where you'd want your ideal heart rate to be at.
If you are recovering from a major illness.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it does have different levels, and then like I said, the like elite, well, not even, it doesn't use the word elite, but you can add to it. Let's see. Yeah, Maffetone. That's what the end.
Cool. We got to get more people talking about the running stuff on the podcast, because that is necessary. One other thing too is, especially when you start getting more comfortable with this, you're definitely going to want to, pick up your stride. Just be careful. Just be careful picking up that stride. It just reminds me of the first day that I sprinted, and I haven't sprinted in forever. And I was like, I'll go 70%. Then I pulled my hamstring because I was like, increase that stride length. Just be careful with that shit.
I was going to say, I think, if you can focus in on like some singular stuff at a time, because there's a lot to kind of think about. And I've been talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, the head over foot and the double down. Like the double down is really nice. Just your elbows are actually coming out, and you're bringing your hands to the center, and you're bringing your elbows back and forth. It like looks really odd. But if you kind of push the energy down, if you think about it, like running is just a lot of continuous jumping. And all we're trying to do, how do we propel ourselves forward for a long period of time and mitigate some of the stress? Well, we have to land each time. And if you were to jump down from something, you're going to kind of naturally, do something with your hands. Or you're moving. Look at this big guy moving.
Yeah, fucking... This looks like he would be a great cosplay Cable from X-Men.
Oh, yeah, he would.
Yeah, he'd be a great Cable.
But he's moving very hard left to right.
Yeah.
It's also not hard, but a lot. Sorry.
It's also uncommon for somebody to pull their arm completely across their body. If you look at his right hand, it comes completely across his body, which sometimes is, I guess the left hand's doing some of that too. Sometimes people will say that's not efficient, but I've actually seen people run very fast that way. So it's not necessarily, it's probably just what feels good to him. But like, if you look at him, he's doing a lot of that head over foot. It's interesting when you see some people running like this sometimes, because there's ways to make this look fast, but I actually think he's moving pretty good. Like I think that, for his body type, I think he's doing pretty damn well. I don't know how fast he's really going, but it looks like he's running like hell.
Yeah,
so large
human. Yeah. But yeah, when we were on a run, Mark, we were kind of doing the like pushing down whatever, or like kind of what's his name, Deion Sanders.
Yep.
I had told you, I mentioned, I was like, whatever X amount of months ago, I would have said like, this is just wasted movement. I thought the goal was to try to use as little movement and just propel yourself forward. But when you do it, it's really hard to do it slow, because once you start moving that way, it launches you forward very fast.
It helps give you momentum. It's really strange. And then if you can practice kind of going back and forth and doing that double down, and then you can start to do that double down front to back, you really start to end up with something. I would say, follow David Weck so you can get some ideas, and just be open-minded to trying some of these things. These are all things, again, to help you mitigate the stress that you might encounter when you're running. I found that the head over foot is really useful. It helps me to keep my feet straight. It helps me to land on toes 3, 4, and 5, which you're trying to land on. And we're trying to actually we're trying to internally rotate at the hip. We're trying to have the motion of our foot where the heel flicks out a little bit. If you're not ending up in these perfect positions, there's no reason to sweat it. Like, you're new to it. You're working on it, and the way that you move is going to be quite different than the way I move. Like, you're going to move differently, but these are all things to practice and to try and to give them a shot and say, hey, what? Actually, that does feel pretty good. Or, I don't know, man, that's something about that doesn't seem right. What most likely will happen is you're going to say to most of the stuff that I'm probably teaching, you're probably going to say, it doesn't really seem right to me. But then probably a couple weeks down the road, you're going to probably start to find your own version of what it is I'm talking about, because we do have a lot of discrepancies between us. There are a lot of differences between us, and you're probably going to land on something that feels right for you.
Just kind of honestly to mention that on our first run, you were mentioning some shit of like, try to go try to move into these planes when you're moving your arms. I was like, dog, what the fuck? I tried a little bit. I was like, that doesn't feel comfortable right now. But one of the other days that I was running, and today when I was running, I noticed my body was going into this natural rhythm that you were talking about on that first day we were running. So it's like, something might not click right now, but understand, with the repetition, things will click over time. And on David Weck, when people look at his content, I see a lot of negative stuff, even some stuff for our audience when they've seen like his what are they called?
The little
the little shaker things. I forget what they're.
Propulsors, the propulsors, and like other stuff where people are like, it's just faddish. Why the fuck do you need this stuff?
Yeah, things that make noise, little maracas.
Little maracas. But the thing that I think not a lot of people notice is that elite level athletes in sport have a natural rhythm to the way that they move that is not replicated by lower level athletes. You see a lower level athlete run and they'll be like this and they'll look good. You see an elite athlete run, there is this flow of movement that their body can do that Weck is trying to help people get a bit of that elite athlete into the way that they move. They have a natural rhythm, a natural flow. That's why
mainly talking about people that are horrible. I mean, mainly, and he is fortunate to where he does work with some high level people. He has access to a really good sprinting coach, and they share ideas together. Like, David Weck knows a lot about fitness.
Yeah, dude.
The fucking guy invented the Bosu ball, and I think people got the Bosu ball all backwards.
Yep.
And they think he's just like this balance guy and that he's not strong. David is very strong. He's very proficient. He's got a lot of guys that train under his tutelage that know what they're doing. He didn't invent or create the Bosu ball just so you have this unstable surface. What he did is he created this beautiful moon-like shaped thing that you get to stand on. And what does it do? It turns your feet domed out slightly. What are we doing when we're trying not to wear any shoes anymore and we're trying to get the feet to get a toe splay? We're trying to get an arch, which David Weck so nicely kind of gave us, because you dome the foot when you're on that goddamn Bosu ball. So I think the world of him. I think he's a genius. He's onto some really good stuff. I think sometimes maybe because it is so different, he has a hard time communicating it. He has a hard time getting the message received well enough so he can kind of keep it going. He just, at the moment, he doesn't quite have like a guy where he could point to and say, that's my guy. And that guy is like someone that is under his tutelage from a young age, that's kicking a lot of ass. But that will happen.
Yes, it will.
It's going to happen because we've messed around with a bunch of his stuff. We thought he was halfway kooky, and then we've been like, oh shit, I think he's onto something.
Uh-huh.
He's definitely onto something with a lot of different things.
You gotta have an open mind and do this shit. Like, you can't just see it and then just say, kick it to the curb because it's not what you're used to. I'm telling you, like, a lot of people that are onto some different shit are doing things that we're not used to. And just because we're not used to it does not mean it doesn't have validity.
I remember the GOATA guys told me, I was like, hey, I just pushed a sled and I was trying to push it the way you were saying. I was pushing a tank. And I went to push it and I was like, my foot spins the other way. He goes, yeah, that's because your hips are backwards. And I'm like, oh, I think he's right. And so I started to kind of mess with it. And as I've been playing around with some of these things, I'm like, okay, I could run faster if my toes are out, and when my foot lands, my toes are out and my heel is in. I can run way faster. If I'm just a sprint, I can run way faster, but I am most likely going to get hurt. How do I run well for me? How do I run fast for me and not get hurt? Well, what if I turn that? What if they're right? What if I turn that? It's not going to hurt me to try it for a little while. What if I turn that foot in a little bit? What if I can get the hips to work the way that they were maybe working when I was younger, or the way they're quote unquote supposed to work? Mm-hmm. What if I can get that to start happening? Well, I'm doing it. I'm in the process of doing it. And like a couple weeks ago when I ran on the beach, that's the fastest I've had my legs turn over. My whole body's like not on board with any of it yet. So it's really weird because I'm like moving, but I'm like scared to like let go and to like open up and to let my legs and arms kind of go flying every which way.
Yeah.
So I still have the butthole puckered pretty tight, but it's getting there. It continues to get better and better. And a lot of it is by doing some of the stuff that I got from the GOATA guys. I'm doing some functional pattern shit, and I'm doing a lot of the stuff from David Weck. I'm blending it all together, and it's feeling fucking amazing. I feel great.
Yep. All these guys have pieces. All these guys have a lot of really great pieces. And that's why I'm happy that we've had them all on, because we're able to kind of put all this stuff together, you know? So this is exciting, guys. One last thing I'll mention, though. We were talking about this when you went to the Davis track. I think that if you're someone who's interested, like let's say you're running every day, but like you want to start doing some faster stuff, mm-hmm. I think that by doing these slower, longer runs, it gave me the capacity to be able to go on the track and feel comfortable opening up my stride for those 200s we did. So we'll maybe talk a little bit about that more later. But if you are wanting, because I do want to do more sprinting mm-hmm. than longer distances. I want the capacity to be able to do longer mm-hmm. distances which now I have a good amount of that. But I mainly want to do faster stuff because mm-hmm. I want that speed that I used to have, or at least a semblance of it, maybe 90% of it, because mm-hmm. I don't need that for jiu-jitsu, but 90% of it, I want that back. And I think the distance running we've been doing, you know, the 2 miles, the 4 miles, etc., that prepared me pretty well for when we went to the track. I wasn't beat. I wasn't winded. My body felt great. Prepared.
Yeah, and somebody could say, hey, look, I don't understand why Nsima is even doing any of this. Like, he doesn't need it for jiu-jitsu. Like, you don't need to go run 2 miles or 4 miles. Well, if you're trying to be proficient at running, let's say 3 miles, trying to make 3 miles feel easy. Well, one of the best ways to make 3 miles feel easy is to run 6 miles.
Yeah.
And to run it like a nice medium pace. But also what happens when somebody like Nsima gets into a tournament, you know, and you went through a couple guys made you expend some energy, and now it's the end of the day, and now you're going for you're going for gold at Worlds. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna get challenged in that way, to where having a capacity, a nice aerobic capacity, which you already have a tremendous aerobic capacity, and running is like very specific, so it's different than what you've been exposed to, but it's not going to hurt anything by you having some extra strength in some of these areas and by you being more well-rounded.
Absolutely not. And actually, it's going to be better for me because a lot of my jiu-jitsu game is based off of guard. So I play jiu-jitsu kind of like a small guy. But there's aspects of jiu-jitsu where you're on your feet for quite a bit. And a lot of guys, they'll divert to guard because when they're on their feet, they gas quickly. So the thing that running is going to actually help me with is when I'm trying to pass somebody's guard explosively on my feet, or when I'm trying to do takedowns repeatedly. I'm going to be able to have more endurance than the other guy that's on his feet, probably because he doesn't do much running or he doesn't train many things on his feet. I'll be able to have more endurance than him. So it's just another former weakness that is now becoming a strength that I'll be able to have decent capacity in. That's going to help with everything else.
Yeah, and I was watching something on Gordon Ryan the other day, and they were talking about like why he's so hard to beat, and they were talking about how like they mentioned all these different great practitioners, and they're like so and so with his leg lock, like so and so with his wrestling, like so and so with his endurance, like so. But he's like, he's the combination of all these people, and they were like the only way to beat him is to probably be more well-rounded than him. It's like, they were like, well, how do you get that? You know, how do you, cause he's big, he's jacked, he's intimidating looking. He's very, very strong. He's probably even strong, like weight room strong, on top of being like physically insanely strong on the mat.
He moves well.
He moves great, right?
Yeah, he moves well.
He's explosive. I mean, it's just amazing, like what the guy has been able to do. But he's well-rounded, and so it's hard to beat somebody when they start to get those capacities. And that's something that, for myself, it's fun to try to lean into. How do I get a little bit more well-rounded? Well, I don't know. Maybe I can't be like some of the great athletes out there or something, but maybe I can be my own version of it. Maybe I can feel like an athlete again. Maybe like, let's just say, like the other day when I was jumping, I was like, I feel like such a rookie. Like I don't know anything about jumping. And I'm like, this like feels like I'm way off. Like this doesn't feel right. But I got to be honest with myself. It's like day one of jumping, like I haven't jumped. So here we go, And so I'm working on these things. And can I get better at jumping? Can I become more mobile? Can I become faster? Can I still get stronger? Can I still pursue strength? I can still get stronger at the level of strength that I'm at now. Maybe it won't be what people were used to seeing years ago. I don't have the passion or desire to lift in that particular way. But I want to be able to move better, lift more weight, be able to move a little faster, and to not be as tight as a trash can. I want to be able to have a little bit more movement. I'm not obsessed with it. Like the movement stuff is not something I'm obsessed with. And I would just like to increase my own mobility.
I have a great shirt idea for you. It just came to mind, and I thought of the Mario sound. Do that. Just go like this, and then face that way, and do that. Okay. Now that silhouette with your legs out like this, air bell, and a mushroom, air bell with your slingshot logo. Bleep, 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 that should be the next slingshot shirt. Air bell, slingshot logo, and you with your silhouette like this,
shooting some fireballs.
I think that'd be a funny fucking shirt. Air bell.
God, I've always wanted to jump on one of those turtles. You jump on them just right, and then you kick them.
Yeah. But then if it hits a block and it comes firing back at you, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, we killed this one. There's a lot of fucking info in this. There's a lot of good info in this.
Let's just talk real quick about the knees, because I know your knees were banged up.
Ooh, yeah.
Why do you think it's been different for you? Years ago, you pursued some running and it was like, nope. And then you kind of got into a mindset where you just didn't think that you could really run at all. Like you didn't think running was for you. You're like, I'm big and my knees hurt. So I'm just going to eliminate running from my world.
Yeah. It's two-factor. So I picked up some of Ben Patrick's stuff before he came here, and I really did the biggest regressions of like the Peterson step up. I did some ATG split squats, but with no weight for a while. I did a lot of those. Like the step ups, I think, are a movement because I'm not sure if it's the Peterson step or whatever, but it directly loads the knee when you go down. And for me, I had to start from a very low level, so I wasn't very high, because when I'd go into that range, my knee was in pain. But I went into a range and I just repped it out, right? And then the next workout, I was able to go higher and then higher. And I think that was one of the movements that like really strengthened my knee, because now I'm using my knee to if you can pull up the Peterson step up, Andrew, that'd be helpful.
I just want to mention quickly, I think everyone should do step ups. I literally think, I mean, unless you got some sort of injury that you can't currently do them at the moment, but I think everyone should do some version of a step up. I think it's an amazing movement.
Yeah. But when you look at it, the Peterson step up, and he also has like the Patrick step up, these two movements are loading the knee directly on a step up fashion. And you just go whatever, like you see him right here, he's on 2 plates and he has load on his back. Take the load off your back, go on 1 plate and work there. But his right knee is being loaded. That initially for me was very painful with no weight. And I was like, fuck, how am I going to progress this? But by just doing higher reps and progressing it slowly over time, I'm able to do it from like whatever height I want with weight in my hand, right? That, doing the ATG split squat slowly, that helps strengthen my knee. But I think not just that, but the second reason why I'm able to run now without knee pain is because my feet are stronger, and in that also along with that, my gait is better. So because my feet are much stronger, I'm able to comfortably strike the ground without pain. And since my feet are stronger, all those forces are being transferred through my body in a much better fashion than it would have been in the past. In the past, when I think about the way I walked and like the way like I had flat feet, quote unquote, even though we know that's just foot weakness. In the past, that was a factor along with weak knees. So I think those two things put together are why now I know that, number one, I can do sprints well, but I can become a pretty proficient runner for my goals. You know, those two things make a big difference.
Yeah, Ben Patrick did such a good job of like breaking down what it looks like to like do something like a dunk. And people might think, well, I don't know, like how does that pertain to my sport? It's like, well, all sports need a good, powerful step. And whether you're obsessed with jumping or whether you want to play tennis or whatever your sport is, you most likely are going to need to like hit the brakes hard. And if you watch, remember some of his videos where he would like rewind the dunk and he would play it back. And when he showed us drills in here, when he would like leap forward, and you were like, how was he able to leap so far just out of nowhere? How is he able to do it so quickly? And then how is he able to like, rewind it back? But he's just showing you the position of your knees. You kind of forget that your knees are going to go over your toes quite a bit a lot of times when it comes to jumping, but it also might happen differently than what you think. But if you play back dunks and you play back a lot of athleticism that you may have seen, you're going to notice that the back knee, so on an ATG split squat, it's really easy to get distracted by driving that front knee forward. And it's really easy to not pay that much attention to that back leg. But for those of you that might be frustrated and you're trying the knees over toes and you're like, the front leg's kind of hard, don't forget that the back leg is the knee is way over the toe on the back leg. And that is important. That might be the medication, the RX, the medicine that you need in your knee. You might not need to drive that front knee forward that much. You might not have to do that. I saw Austin Baumgarten doing some sets in here yesterday. And I was like, you know what? Most people are going to look at that and be like, he doesn't have the range of motion to get the benefit from it. First of all, it's his range of motion. So that's a huge plus. He probably hasn't really worked on it a lot before. But secondly, you can't deny the fact that that back leg is getting a lot of work. So Ben did a great job of kind of showing that these athletes, when they go to do a jump or when they're starting to sprint at high speeds, or they're doing a cutback in football or these different movements, you're going to end up with these crazy like shin angles, and your knees are going to end up over your toes quite a bit.
Also, don't forget, you've been talking about the backward sled and he's been talking about the backward sled for a minute. That's another easy movement that you can do if you have a sled access.
So simple and easy to do that you should just do it.
Drives so much blood into the knees. But when you get good at that, you're going to notice your feet, if you do that before a lot of stuff, your knees feel like they have like your knees feel lubricated, right?
They feel lubed up.
That's a big deal. And the last thing I was going to mention. Oh, okay. So when we were talking to Matt Wenning, obviously Matt had some disagreements about Ben's method. And he mentioned something. He's like, I've never met an athlete that had strong quads and think knee issues or something like
Or
that.
he's never met anyone that had too strong a hamstring was his main thing. I think
Too strong a hamstring. So my hamstrings have always been pretty fucking strong, which is why I was a good sumo deadlifter. My quads were also very big and strong too, but I still had knee pain, right? So for me, and I mean, I dealt with Osgood-Slaughter when I was younger, so that took me out of running for 3 years because my knees were in so much pain, but my quads were big and my hamstrings were big. And I still had that knee pain. It was only diving into strengthening that range of the knee that now I don't have knee pain. So, you know, I think like if you have knee issues, don't just like dabble and like, you know, just look at Ben's program from Instagram and do some of those movements.
You could have easily been like, well, weakness is not a problem for me. I lift all the time.
Yep.
My legs are strong.
They look huge and they're
jacked.
Huge. Yeah. But because a lot of people are like, oh, like they look at his Instagram and they come to the assumption that, like Matt had the assumption that there's not posterior chain work when you purchase his program.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, what, $50 or something, $40-$50 a month. It's not crazy expensive, but it's very worth it. You'll see so much posterior chain work along with the knee stuff that he's talked about and you see all over his Instagram. So I think that if you do have knee issues, fucking buy that program. That is something that's going to be worth your money, even if it's for 1, 2 or 3 months, because you'll just get an understanding of some of the movements that he does. And then if you don't want to pay for it anymore, don't. But you'll at least actually have a full tool set that you can now fix yourself. Or fucking buy his book. I think his book's on Amazon. It's like ATG Principles. I think if you want to make a one-time purchase and you have knee issues, go to Amazon and buy Ben's ATG book. It's not expensive. I think it's like $20 or $30.
Like the ATG For Life or something like
ATG
that?
For Life.
Yeah.
He has all those concepts in there and it's not expensive. You know, these are things where like, if you ask us for movements, we'll give you movements, but if you go to the source, you'll have all the answers you want.
There you go.
When it comes to running, I'd also advise against being too much on your toes. I think sometimes people are too much on their toes just as much as they might be heel striking too much. Sometimes you're on your toes so much that your calves just blow up.
Yeah.
And they're like full of blood. And you're like, man, what's going on with my calves? I feel like I'm going to die. You know, it's nice to be on your toes for sports. Like it's, you know, you're kind of supposed to be. And when it comes to like sprinting, there's no other way to sprint than to kind of get up on your toes. But you'll notice the impact forces of sprinting are so great that your foot is going to touch the ground as you are driving forward. It just happens. Your heel is probably going to tap the ground just a little bit. But when you're jogging, you don't want to be too much on your toes. I think being on your toes too much and having your shoes very cushioned and just not allowing your foot to act like a foot, you're not getting any toe splay and stuff, I think is the real culprit behind shin splints. So people ask me all the time about shin splints. I think that your foot can't freely dorsiflex and move around the way it needs to in some of these shoes that have tons and tons of padding on them. So it sounds opposite, sounds counterintuitive, but if you can run in a pair of the Shama sandals, you're going to build up those ankles and those shins. You can also do exercises, again, from Ben Patrick. He has a lot of recommendations on how you can train the tibs. There's a lot of great stuff that Ben showed us on the Super Training Gym YouTube channel. You can kind of reference that, and that will give you a lot of great advice. But I think that sometimes people think these things are normal. They think like it's normal for me to like I always get shin splints when I run. You know, they think it's like a normal thing, and it might be normal for them, but unfortunately, or fortunately rather, it doesn't have to be normal for you. You can start to work some of that pain out of there. Another simple fix for it would be to get on the ground and to be on your knees and do some of the Cadora stuff that he showed us, or the, what is that position called? Seiza position. Like he didn't create it or whatever, right? But like the Goda guys talked to us about it. Movement Doc showed us a lot of stuff from there as well. You get down in that position, you're going to get those shins to stretch. Yeah. And let's not forget about the importance of myofascial release. I bought a bunch of different stuff. Probably one of the better things that I bought recently for myofascial work. That thing is amazing, from Naboso.
Neuroball, naboso.com.
That thing's amazing, especially for smashing the feet. That will help with another problem that people talk about all the time, which is plantar fasciitis. So I think really working on the feet and really digging in on some of those spots. But one of the best things I bought recently is just a med ball. I got it off of Amazon, and it's one of the balls that's in the gym that's hard. And I roll my butt out on there. I roll my hip out on there. But if you find something, the Bosu ball will be really nice, or a lacrosse ball, a baseball, any of those types of things would be great on your shin. You're going to be so pissed. It's going to not feel great, but it will help free up a lot of stuff in your leg. You can even just, when you put your socks on each day, you can just kind of stretch your feet down to try to get, that's the exact ball that I bought right there. That sucker.
Man,
yeah, that thing destroys my hips.
How did it work for you yesterday? Did it help open up stuff to where you can move a little better?
Yeah, so I was doing stuff that Robbie Ellis was showing me, so the movement doc, and there's just a couple things where like there's like I think the Human Garage crew were calling it like, oh, there's a little glitch there. Like there's things like, oh, that was a little glitch, right?
Nsima's got a name for it.
Yeah, and then
little niggle.
Oh, that's what
you can say it. It is a dictionary defined word. You should be careful when you say it.
Yeah,
but you can say it.
I can say it. But anyway, so we were using the what are those like tether ball looking things?
Oh yeah,
golly,
that's good enough. Tether ball.
There you go. And I rolled out on the one side, and it did give me a little bit more access to do. I know I'm being very vague because I don't know the fucking terms, and it's just too hard to explain over audio.
You rubbed it on your butt and you rubbed it on your hip, and then you were able to do the 90-90 stretches a little bit better.
Yeah. And so the thing about it, when I find it on my hip, I can actually track it almost all the way around to my butt. Like there's just like one strip there that's just like, is it ever going to not be bruised?
That was actually Nsima's nose.
It was. Okay, I'm glad it was just his nose. I thought it because it had like the wraparound feature. So I'm thinking
felt really warm.
Yeah. And then like on one spot, for some reason, like it's like pretty long, and then it goes like this on one spot.
Oh wow!
So I don't know what that means.
Bigger.
Yeah, kind of like a mushroom almost.
Yeah.
Wow, like a mushroom tip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's happened to just about everybody in the gym.
It's a rite of passage.
Hey, well.
And when it happens, just smile and take it.
He's like, this is jujitsu. Like, really?
You're just slapping my face with your dong. What the fuck?
First lesson of jujitsu.
No thanks.
What is this supposed to teach us?
Just Weinstein it. What I wanted to mention though was, dude, I fucking love this because you mentioned the shins, right? I haven't even thought about shin splints because I haven't had that issue. Why though? Because we spent the time strengthening the shins when Ben came in.
We have strong tips.
We have fucking strong motherfucking tips. And then when Kadora came in, I know you have too, we've been spending more time in these positions that lengthen the tibialis, right? I sit in that every day for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes when I'm working. And I can't even remotely think of a time in any of these runs that shin splints even peeked its head out.
I used to get them so bad that my feet would fall asleep.
Shin splints?
Yeah, my feet would go numb from shin splints.
Shit.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's probably just from me being like, I used to always run on my toes a lot. And I didn't even really, I don't know, I never even really thought about it.
Yeah.
No one ever told me.
But I just find it so cool how all of these things that we're talking about, all these things that we're doing are adding together to allow us to pick up new things and not have the pains that most people end up feeling. We're fucking sitting behind every podcast. Andrew has them at his feet. Mark has the mat at his feet, and same here. We have the Nero ball and then the Noboso pad because we're working on our feet every single day. So I haven't dealt with any type of plantar fasciitis because these things that we're talking about are literally daily habits that we always do. We've baked them into our day. So if you can figure out a way to get a Noboso ball by your feet when you're at work, get yourself one of the mats, sit in Seiza for a little bit, turn them into habits. A lot of the problems that other people talk about, you won't have to deal with.
Achilles tendon is another big one. Again, myofascial release, trying to get underneath that heel, those kind of like heel cords. Again, we always reference Kelly Starrett. Kelly Starrett has like courses on Achilles issues. He's got a lot of information on the internet, a lot of information on his Instagram. You can check out The Supple Leopard. That's a great book, a great resource. There's just so much information out there where you can really deflect and really kind of help yourself with a lot of these issues. But I'm digging in on the Bosu ball. One of the advantages of this ball, this neuro ball, is that you can pull it apart. It has a little tiny ball inside of it, which is nice because then you can dig into some areas that maybe otherwise you wouldn't be able to get to. But when you take the ball and you put it in two different parts, you have these kind of spheres that you can stand on. And you can really dig in on whatever the real problem areas are for your feet. And again, if you have an Achilles issue, you want to probably work all around the heel. So these are just like, there's a bunch of stuff you can do. Last little chunk I want to mention is that hurts people often is the lower back. A lot of people's lower back just lights up when they run. And this is where I would like for people to try to tuck their hips under them a little bit and to think about really trying to flatten out that spine a bit. I guess one of the best ways to kind of envision it is that you are trying just to stack your hips under your shoulders. And it might feel weird. Like if you're somebody that your butt is kind of tilted back most of the time, when you go to do that, you're going to feel like you just kind of like flattened out, like you make yourself shorter. And it's really weird, but you can practice by getting up against a wall, or you can lay down on the ground and have your feet flat and your knees are up, but your feet are flat on the ground, and you can press your lower back into the ground, or you can do it on like a bench press with your feet on the bench press. Press your lower back into that bench press. And that's something you can work on really easy. You can do it standing and just lean up against a wall and push your lower back in. And once your lower back is pushed up against the wall, then you want to try to figure out how to get your shoulders back. And it starts to get tricky, but you want to keep trying to fix it. And you should be able to kind of segment your back to a point where you're relatively flat. But while you're running, just tuck those hips kind of under you a little bit. And you're going to notice that your legs, it's actually easier for your feet and your legs to be a little bit more ahead of you when you're like that. And your turnover will feel different just by having the hips tucked underneath you, just a pinch.
And a cool thing, there's also, I got this from Kelly Starrett when I read The Supple Leopard years ago. When he talks about bracing, he talks about trying to imagine that you want your rib cage above your pelvis. And you almost want it aligned so that they seem like two bowls that are pouring into each other. If you open up if your rib cage, if this shit comes here, right? It's like an open system. If it's here, you're too crouched. But if it's here in this neutral position, rib cage and pelvis are two bowls pouring right into each other. So that's another good way to think about it. If that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. If you tuck your hips under you, even just slightly, and it feels like a stretch for your lower back, that's an indication that you're probably kind of overextended throughout the day. That's where I'm at. I got to keep working on it. And while we're on the podcast here, I'm kind of thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, just tuck that, just a pinch. It's just a small change. So while you're running, you might notice that you can pull off tremendous amounts of tension in that low back because it's slightly overextended. And then with every movement that you're doing, every time that hip kicks back, that one side is getting overextended even just a little bit more. So something to be careful of and something to be cautious of. Andrew, want to take us on out of here, buddy?
Sure thing. And then, so real quick, like that's actually what's been like, because people ask me.
Go to the Discord, by the way.
Discord. But like people have been asking, like, well, how's your back? Like, what's going on? Like, it's supposed to be hurting, but you're running. If I understood my back pain a little bit more, I could probably explain why it doesn't hurt when running. But the only thing I could think of is like when we went out and ran with Graham barefoot, like I was just like very soft on my feet. So it's like I'm not crashing.
We sprinted that day.
Yeah, we sprinted that day. And then I've also done long distance with Mark. So it's like I can do both. I don't know exactly what's going on other than I'm just like I'm slightly braced and I'm feeling comfortable and I'm not. Again, like I'm not crashing down.
Andrew can run better than both of us.
I don't know.
He's
about
like kind of built for it.
I think I think honestly, like running may be one of the things that gets you out of pain, because if now you're able to go through long, locomotion for a while and your back isn't in pain, but everything else hurts, think about how much more movement that you're going to be able to get over time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like the first time where it wasn't my back pain didn't limit what was going on. It was actually like knee pain where I was like, oh, I didn't even know I had knee pain. But it could be, I mean, I know for a fact because, again, bringing back movement doc, Mark's actually been telling me to do this for the longest time about my back, like flattening it out, Again, explaining everything you just explained right now with the run, but like it just wasn't clicking. And then when Robbie came in, he just had a couple of different techniques and the verbiage was a little bit different. I was just like, oh, okay. Combining that with some breathing, it's like really, really helping, like tremendously helping. So I think getting my lower back to go from this to just this has been making like the biggest difference so far, like overnight. And so I think doing that with running is absolutely helping. So like all that shit, again, from Goda to David Weck, all of it kind of taking pieces here and there and all of it coming in together at the same time is that's again, I don't have one answer, but like that is the answer. It's like putting all this shit together that fits my body and makes it work out a lot better. So yeah, but anyway, all right, cool. Let's get out of here. Powerproject.live for everything. Links to sponsors, links to buy this shirt, that mug that's in front of Nsima. Everything is available there. And make sure you guys go check it out and let us know what you guys think about the new website. Please like today's video and make sure you guys drop a comment down below. Let us know where you guys are at in your running journey, and hit that like button before you guys head out. And please follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where you at?
I'm going to mention this on another podcast, but if you guys grab the Devil Pussy mug, we want to see what you're drinking out of it. And if anybody asks you, what is that mug? It's like, well, if you have an evil cat, you don't want it to trap you within your own home. Exactly. Cats can be evil. This can be a very PG mug. It doesn't need to be X-rated. Yeah. But if you wanted to, it can. At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter, Mark.
Just ask him to sniff it. Yeah. Like, yo, you got to sniff this mug. You got to smell it.
Yeah.
Be like, well, what's in it? Coffee? Like, I don't know, man.
You got to find out.
You got to try it out. I don't know. We're disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Well, I said I was going to give you guys a tip.
Oh,
so I'm going to give you guys another tip on our way out the door here. And this is a real simple one. If you want to eat whatever you want in a given day, I want to strongly suggest and strongly recommend that you eat about 40 or 50 grams of lean protein before you go and do that. So if you want to do that for the day and you want to eat a big ass burrito or do something that's slightly off plan, eat some lean beef, get yourself some Piedmontese, have a bavette steak, and then go have at it with that fucking giant burrito. And hopefully when you eat that giant burrito or you eat that pint of Ben & Jerry's, hopefully that's it. And you get to reset and restart for the next day. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed Smelly's big tip.